Man. How's your week been?
It's pretty good. It's Monday,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, don't you just love Mondays?
For some reason, I feel like it's Tuesday. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's been a long day because I woke up early to go to a workout. So by 12, I was already like, dude, why am I so tired? Took a little nap and then I went to a coffee shop. So
Yeah, I'll be honest, Mondays don't feel as bad as they used to me.
yeah,
I think I used to I used to really struggle with Mondays.
Yeah.
Through COVID, I'll probably say Mondays now have become more of like a normal day versus feeling like the dread of like the Monday start of the week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I actually am becoming okay with Mondays now.
That's good.
That's like new.
Good. Yeah.
That's like really a big deal for me.
It was difficult before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it totally was. Well, welcome. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great conversation. I think a conversation where we want to put our 2 cents into what's going on in society right now.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Again, my name is Adam Cruz.
My name is Antonio Reyes.
And we're going to be talking about loving people that you disagree with.
Yes. I think that's a big conversation because there's many things about that I want to say about this subject.
Yeah.
Because I think we tend to say that we believe in an inclusive society in a sense, right?
Yeah.
We constantly post that.
Yeah.
But I think in the moment somebody disagrees with us,
we
don't know how to manage that.
Yeah.
And I feel like we long for that affirmation to say you need to agree with me. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I agree. I definitely kind of get where you're going with that. I think that we think of love as if you love me, you would agree with everything that I do.
True.
But I think if you've ever been in any type of relationship, especially one with like a significant other,
right,
and you love that person,
that's not true.
You know that's not true. Yeah, exactly.
I actually don't. I don't agree with everything, and I'm sure she doesn't agree with everything with my wife, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't love her. That doesn't mean she doesn't love me.
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, I think, it's funny that's something that I think I've experienced a lot in my relationship with my wife is that she is really good at, like, bringing up things about maybe things that she is bothered by or, when you have those hard conversations about things that you're like, hey, like, asking those tough questions of like, hey, like, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Or maybe I did something, or especially if I say something, because like that's always been a thing of mine is sometimes I overshare. So that's always something that she's pointed out to me where it's like, hey, like in a relationship, there's things that she's like, I'm not okay with that or whatever it is. And there's been plenty of times where I've disagreed where I'm like, for me personally, there might be a piece of information with a friend that I'm okay with sharing.
Yeah.
But being in that relationship with her has taught me and helped me to kind of see things where even though I might not necessarily agree with I don't have the same feeling that she does, but I think this is where this conversation to me is really more about the idea of what is love and what does it mean to love someone, because for me, I've committed my life to be with her. And so what that means is it means that I'm putting myself in a position to learn and be wanting to figure out, okay, how can we operate in this relationship in a way that is going to make her happy and going to make me happy, whether or not we agree on every little detail.
Yeah.
I
think that's so interesting because let's talk for a minute about this whole idea of loving someone, right?
Yeah.
Because I do believe we have built relationships saying that we love we love someone.
Yeah.
Based on emotions.
Oh yeah.
If you stimulate me, and I stimulate you in a sense, an emotional stimulation. Yeah. Like, I love you.
Yeah.
But the moment that stimulation is no longer there, I don't love you no more.
Yeah.
Right? So if we understand love, at least for us, right, that we come from this faith background where we believe what Jesus says, and I mean, we see that love goes beyond just a feeling, goes in depth to commitment, consistency, even through things that we don't agree, right? Our commitment to love that person goes beyond just a feeling. So now going back to the whole loving someone, right? I think we have lived in this illusion where we think we love someone. Yeah. But I think love goes to the point where knowing things that bother you, that irritate you, that you don't agree, you still love that person. The commitment and the consistency is still there. Yeah. So I think that that's something that I feel like we miss it nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, when I read the Bible and I see how God has chosen to love us as humanity despite the mistakes that we continue to make, despite the fact that, if we're all honest, we may not live life perfectly in the way that we might think God is asking of us to do, and yet he still loves us, right? And I think that motto of love is something that we as humans, rightfully so, I would say, if we're comparing ourselves to God, we can never measure up and reach that level of love. Nope. But I think that we also have to be careful not to use those types of things as an excuse, because I think I always find it funny that we know that we're imperfect, and yet we always have to remind each other that we're imperfect. That's so good. I always think that it's funny. I'm like, we all know that we make mistakes. We all know that we're not perfect beings. But yet every time we make a mistake, the first thing that comes out of our mouth is, well, they're not perfect. Right. Well, I'm not perfect. And it's like, don't you think we would already have accepted that? But I don't think we accept that as humans, and that's why we ultimately like put these types of perfect pressures on people.
That's so good, because I think disappointments is false expectations, right? That's the reality of it. Like, I have a false expectations over you, and not fair either, because I don't think it would be fair for me to put certain expectations over you without even talking to you, without even having a conversation over you. So I think that when it comes down to that, I think it's so true that the way we love, I think we have to reshape the way we love. And I mean, this is obviously not for everyone, but going back to the scriptures, right, in the Bible, and when Jesus talks about it, I think he elevates the conversation. He's like, I don't want you to just love the people that you think they're cool, that think they're right, that you agree with. Yeah. I want you to actually love the people that completely disagree with you. Yeah. Your enemies. Yeah. And elevates it to a point where it's like, I don't know if I can actually do that. Yeah. Because we don't know how to. And we live in a society where we say we love people, but I think we don't. Yeah. I think we have to challenge that.
Yeah, and I think that's where the challenge comes up when it comes to loving someone that you disagree with, is asking that question, well, what does that actually look like? True. What does it actually look like to love someone that I disagree with? I think there's so many examples that we can give when it comes to having that conversation. And I think a part of it is ultimately asking yourself the question, okay, how can I push past myself a little bit? And one of our mentors, one of my mentors, he shares what I felt is like such a great example or to describe what like the love is in marriage is like sacrificial love. Is that's what it means to love your spouse, is that you're willing to sacrifice for her. She's willing to sacrifice for you. And to me, when me and my wife have had those moments and consistently where it's just like, man, like I'm truly loving on her. I'm going past the things that I don't want to do, if it's washing dishes or cleaning up or doing these like simple things, daily things. But when I am loving her because I know, hey, I know this makes her happy. I know she's going to appreciate this. I want to do this for her. And then she'll come back and say, hey, you know, what do you need? I want to help you. When we're having that type of situation, man, it's just like, it literally just makes our home feel like it's full of love.
Right. But let me just take it like a little deeper. What happens when the household doesn't flow that way?
Yeah.
When there's constantly conflict, right? I think it goes back to being a little selfish. Yes. Right? Yep. It goes back to being selfish. I think if we don't come to relationship, not just in our partner, right? But I think if we don't come into relationship with friendships and with people, if we're not willing to say, man, I'm willing to love this person, you know, I'm willing to care for this person to a level where I'm not going to be selfish about it. Yeah. I'm not going to allow the disagreements to rob us from actually. Yeah. You know, I can give you a really big example for me, you know, like, you know, my best friend is, his name is Rodrigo. And we are very different in character, personalities, the way we think, and what we pursue. But I love that dude. Yeah. And we might have certain conversations when I'm like, damn, bro, like, man, you're crazy. I don't think I can. I don't know how I'm your friend, you know? Yeah. But I think we have gone through so much together. And also, he's significant to my life because he had a lot of value to me. I think I'm willing to pass by that and say, man, like, yeah, we might not agree with that. Yeah. And that's fine. Yeah. And I'm still going to be here for you. You're going to still be here for me. And let's keep moving forward. Yeah. I think that's hard.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the biggest keys to that is I think that's a great example of what it looks like to interact with people that you disagree with, is the fact that you're still willing, even in the midst of that, to at some point not enter that relationship selfishly. Right. Because like how you described it is like, even though we have conversations and you might be on two ends of whatever that spectrum is, you guys still choose to both try to put that aside for the sake of the relationship. And I think that is where in society that values kind of our own like selfishness, right, that's where I think we really miss out on the value of relationships. Yep. Because it's so difficult for us to see past ourselves. Yeah. It's so difficult because, and don't get me wrong, I think it's very good for us to have high values, high morals in our life. However, I think even in going back to scripture, we see that Jesus never, ever put his values and morals and standards of how to live above loving people. Yep. Even though they weren't getting it, even though they weren't, you know, they maybe weren't necessarily fully there yet. Yep. He was still willing to love them, meaning be in relationship with them. Yeah. You know,
I think it's so interesting because when we talk about, you know, it's funny. I have friends that are, you know, they don't pursue faith or they're not into that, and they constantly criticize people that are in faith, right? That they're religiously, you know, so obsessed or dogmatic or things like that. But you can be dogmatic, not believing in a God. Yeah, yeah. You can be so dogmatic about something that you're so, you don't care about what everybody thinks. You're the one who is right. Yeah. And I think we should be careful with that. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the problem is that if you having trouble with connecting with people, we having trouble to connect with people that don't think like us and they don't process things like us. If we don't have people in our circles that are different than us, I think we should question if my belief is like hurting, or of the way I believe is like isolating me from actually being exposed to other people. Because I think that many times, like for example, I think both of us, we're not, and even our wives, you know, I don't think we live a life where everybody that's around us is like agrees with us. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like even for us, like what was it on Friday? We were having a conversation about something, and the four of us had some of us, we have different thoughts about certain things, you know?
Yeah.
But we had such a respect for each other, and love for each other, and we honor each other that even if we disagree, we still love each other. Yeah, we still hang out with each other.
Yeah, and I think that's to me has been probably one of the most valued part of my relationships with people, because to me it's like those are for me personally, some of the most fun, like, unforgettable conversations, because you can have those moments where you're genuinely like have the freedom. Like, that's to me is what true like freedom in relationship and love is, when you can be your authentic self, share your authentic opinions, and not be criticized or ridiculed to the point of not being willing to do a relationship with that person.
I love that you didn't say like you're not allowing people to question you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like, you're okay sharing, and people can question you. Yeah. And people can challenge your thoughts, but that doesn't mean that they're going to disrespect you or they're going to hurt you. Yeah. Because we're so used to, I feel like, man, this is going too deep into conversation. Like, how do we deal with that? But let's be honest, right? Like, the reality is that we're so used to nowadays, and social media and just in conversations and TV and all that stuff, that when we no longer can attack your value or your belief, I start attacking the person. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We start going against the person instead of actually tackling and arguing against the argument that we're trying to, like, the thought, right? The topic forever, whatever it is. Yeah. So we have learn that from media, learn that from Twitter, learn that from social media, learn that from whatever it is, you know. But we have learned that in the moment I no longer can attack or even, you know, like prove my point in a sense. Yeah. I start attacking the person. Yeah. And that's so off. That's not right, because I think that's what we value about each other, right? Yeah, yeah. That we can actually tackle maybe the topic or the idea, and say, hey, but I'm not gonna go after, like, man, Joseph, like, bro, you're to this or you're to that. Yeah, yeah. Bro, like, that's not even. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, if I am, you can call me out. It's all good. Nah, but I think that what really, when I see these issues or when I see people having these types of battles or struggles or living life a certain way, is because I think is that we often have like a very high value of ourself and our opinion. Right. And I think because we're in a world that we live in that is so...
I'm going to fix this. Oh, yeah. There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
Because we live in a world that is so... that values like information and being able to have access to information, that we are always like, there's certain people that literally thrive off just consuming as much information about certain topics and being able to have those dialogues and conversations and arguments, which aren't necessarily a bad thing. But I think what happens is we're so consumed with feeding our own ego that we're not concerned with the person we're talking to. We're just concerned with letting them know that we are superior to them in a certain way, because we have a level of intellect or a level of information that they are not, have access to or have not researched themselves. So I think too many of us are walking around figuring out how, and so stemming from pride and insecurity within ourselves, saying, how can I today, find someone that I can let them know that I am better than them or I'm smarter than them. And there's really a lack of love through and through when it comes to living your life that way, or even subconsciously. I think a lot of us don't do that intentionally, but there's a subconscious part of us that are living our life through those types of emotions and those types of things that are just, unhealthy.
So I think, like, going to I don't want to say going back to, like, how do we actually love someone through like disagreeing that person? How do we love people, right? I think one of the things that we need to understand, and I love this because I go to workout, right? Yeah. To call boot camp, like, it's kind of intensity the whole time. Yeah, like cardio and all this stuff, right? And when I'm tired, or not even, when my trainer's trying to push me, right? She's like, hey, go heavier, do this and do that, or like I have sometimes a guy, he like, go heavier, that's nothing. And I always respond, and I know I get it, like I actually said, but I always I tell them I have nothing to prove. Like I have nothing to prove to you. I have nothing to prove to anyone here. I'm fine. Right. And I think how do we love someone? Like you said it, right? We come with our ego and our insecurities. Well, the way we actually we have nothing to prove. If you actually, what you actually believe in, I'm willing to come into a conversation saying, I might be wrong. Right? I think that we need to come to a conversation or to interact with someone else saying, look, I have nothing to prove to you. I have nothing to prove to you. Like, I'm smarter. You're less than me. I'm more well informed. You're not woke because you're not actually following social media or the conspiracy theories that I'm listening to, you know? Like, dude, like, no, just come into a relationship without trying to prove anything.
And I think how I would answer that is, how do we love people through disagreements? I think it starts with approaching our relationships from a posture of, how can I give to this relationship instead of taking away from? I think if we would, think about this. If you imagine every time you walked into a room and it was with your friends or with your wife or with, coworkers, imagine walking in that place and actually saying, hey, to yourself, how can I give to them? How can I support them? How can I love on them? How can I do something where I'm creating value for them?
Right.
Because I think so often we walk into those places with our head up high and saying, hey, I deserve to be here. Like, you guys need to look at me. Like, especially if you're like in a position of power and leadership, and you can always see someone who's kind of like in that position a little too early and a little too immaturely, because they're always more concerned about themselves than they are their team. And I think we have to always look at our friend group or people that we don't even know, but people we're having conversations with, and always looking at them from a position of, how can myself as Adam, how can myself as Antonio, how can, when I interact with every single person that I interact with, give something to them, not in a position of, I just want to walk around and take. And when we're living that life, it's usually because we're empty. There's things in us that we're lacking. It's when we're lacking love that we don't have love to give.
I think that's so good. You actually, the point of reference is not what can I get from them, is what can I give to them. Right. And I think that's so cool, because I don't think we live relationships that way. No. We live relationships taken from people. We live in relationships, what can I get from them? Even if you're an artist, I have the opportunity to be a pastor, and many times you can pursue opportunities, and those opportunities can take you to places where you're trying to build relationships to see if there's any opportunities that can come from people, right? So I think if we come with that mentality of like, can you give me, like, what can I get from you? I think that's in certain circles, I'm not going to point what circles, but I think certain circles, if you don't have nothing to offer, they don't build a relationship with you. And that's sad. That's sad.
And I think that's the thing where if people feel like we have nothing to offer, I think that's also a part of that conversation, is us as ourselves, or as someone in a situation like that, acknowledging the value that they have within themselves, or even being honest with themselves and working on the areas where they might be in a place of struggle. Because I think that's, again, kind of going back to what I just said, like, if you don't have love for yourself or love within yourself, or saying, hey, I know that the way I view people, or the way I'm approaching my life, I can bring this type of value. And then I think when you're in circles of people that don't value you, then you have also the ability to walk away. Because I think that is a very real thing when it comes to, sometimes when it comes to situations, it's true. Like I've talked about this a lot with some people. It's like, you might love people and say, hey, I'm that, but that doesn't mean you have to stay in that situation.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think you're right. Man, I think one of the dumbest things for me, and I say it like that because I think that we live in a culture right now, the whole canceling people.
Yeah. Cancel culture.
Cancel culture, like, man, like, I completely disagree with that. I feel like I feel like when we trying to shut people down, even if you don't agree, there's many people that I'm like, dang, like,
yeah,
come on, but that doesn't give me no right to actually cancel that person's voice, right?
Yeah.
So I think that we live in a time where, like you say, we have to pass ourselves, pass beyond ourselves, right? And like you said, we have the ability to actually walk away.
Yeah.
Why do we have to stay and try to prove our point or whatever it is when we have the wisdom to walk away from certain conversations? Like, I don't engage in certain conversations.
Yeah.
Like, if certain people come and ask me certain questions about my faith or whatever it is that I'm believing, when I ask them, do you really want to have this conversation? And if they don't, no, I'm out. If you want to prove me wrong, you're right. There you go. Yeah. So I think that it has to do with that. And I feel like there's something that we've been talking about, right? And we probably can have a whole conversation about this. But it's this idea of wisdom, right?
Yeah.
That we don't search for wisdom no more.
Yeah.
And I think one of our mentors, both of us, talk about this. And I remember he told me this, and I think there's no better way to actually describe it, and is that wisdom sits back and listens.
Yeah.
Right. We don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
We always want to be in the offensive side instead of saying, you know what, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna listen to this person.
Yeah.
What does this person has to say? What did this person? Maybe we don't know their story, right?
Yeah.
So I think that when we come to how do we love people, you sit down and listen to someone.
Yeah.
You pursue wisdom to actually say, you know what? I don't know this person completely. Or I might know them, right?
Yeah.
But I think that I think we need to come with wisdom. And to me, like I love what our Charlemagne they got says, don't cancel culture, cancel. Yeah. Cancel culture.
Yeah. I literally just heard him say that. I thought that was really good.
I was like, that's cool. That's
counsel
good.
Culture, not cancel culture.
Because there's people going to say things that probably don't know what they're talking about. And that's fine.
Yeah, and I think the whole movement of how this all began, I believe it started with good intentions, like many things do. Like, there are certain people in media and entertainment world that need to be put in jail, right? Those I think those like extreme cases of, hey, this person is created, has abused people, has done illegal things, like they need to be not canceled, they need to be put in jail,
Yeah.
So I think where it's now escalated is to the point of when someone says something that people completely disagree with, when someone, says things that people can take and just, completely run with that. Maybe they are negative or hateful comments or things like that.
Yeah.
But I think the idea and the problem with the whole cancel culture to me is that it starts to, what it's doing is it's creating and validating toxic behavior, because I don't think that we should handle relationships that way. We shouldn't handle our relationships from a perspective of, hey, if I don't like what you said, I'm canceling you from my life.
Right.
The idea of ghosting people and doing all that. It's like that's where I think that toxic behavior of doing a relationship that way, that's where it's just another outlet, another stemming from not loving people through difficulty, through disagreements and all that. We don't want to do that because we want to be comfortable. We want to be around people that agree with us, and we want to continue to kind of be in a relationship in that way.
I think, and I do believe that's if you cancel people, you no longer grow in empathy, right? I feel like because you're no longer willing to be with someone that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
Right. And I think empathy is built, and sometimes in people that you don't agree, you disagree, you don't even know them.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like there's a danger of actually isolating ourselves, canceling people. And like you said, it started maybe as with good intentions, right? But this thing evolved to like, and Twitter and social media, you know, like cancel this person, cancel. We're just talking about Nick Cannon, right?
Yeah.
I know, but unfortunately, he makes some comments to probably be ignorant. But this is right away we go and canceling people. Like, man, like it doesn't matter about their life.
Yeah, there's no forgiveness. Right. There's no, restoration.
Right. There's nothing. We just disregard that person, and we don't even know. Like, for example, for him, they cancel certain contracts that he had, certain shows that postpone them. Like, we don't know how this can affect someone either, right?
Yeah, and I think this puts a high value. To me, what it points out is that with the elevation and accessibility of platforms, is people, they forget or don't realize the power of words and their own words, because especially someone like him who has had like this career where he's never had negative publicity, never been in a place where people, where he's had this negative image of himself, but getting to a place where you're talking and doing these things so much that that's his everyday. He just sits in front of a camera, so it's like
he has a radio show. He has all this. He's constantly talking.
So it's like, for someone in that position, you become numb to the fact that no, your words have power. If you're saying something that could be deemed inappropriate or deemed as hate speech, or if it just plain and simple is like, like I don't think you realize, like, you get to a point where you almost misunderstand or don't even see that your words have that kind of power, that they can affect people's lives.
I think I still feel like I don't agree with the whole canceling culture of him, like, But anyways, then going back to loving, I don't know how we went to cancel culture, loving people, Anyways, I think that I think we need more wisdom and willingness to love people beyond ourselves, beyond what we think and our perception and the way we perceive reality. I understand there's people that might be ignorant about certain things, and we have to educate people. We have to be educated. I think that the way we love people, Jesus talks about it all the time, and I don't think there's a better example than him, and I think he interacts with people that probably never respond to him. He loved people that perhaps just walk away, He loved people that were probably, like the disciples didn't like agree with, And I think that we need to be willing to do that,
One thing I've learned too is, as I've gotten older, is I think it would be good to make clear that there's certain seasons in your life where it's one thing to love someone that you disagree with, and it's another thing to just realize when a relationship has like ended, like the season has ended for that relationship. I think that's something that I've realized is, it's not that I don't love the person. It's not that, because of our disagreements, like, maybe for them, maybe not for me, but whatever that could be, is that I've just realized and accepted that there's friends and people in my life that maybe that it's not that they're not in my life completely, but it's just we don't hang out as much, we don't spend time as much, we don't we're not doing all those things we used to do. And it's not that there's a lack of necessarily love, but it's just over time, seasons and relationships have changed, or relationships have completely ended. And I've learned that we gain, if we're paying attention, we can gain so much from every relationship that we're in when it comes to our friendships and people that we interact with. And I've learned that the people that have actually been the most difficult for me to love have actually taught me so much, because when I'm in close proximity with someone that I am now, it's difficult for me to actually show them love, but I'm working through that. When I go and meet someone that I don't know, and I see them in public, or I'm interacting with someone new for the first time, I actually have so much more grace and so much more ability within me to actually love that person, because I'm doing a relationship with people that I don't necessarily agree with all the time.
Right.
And that actually builds within me kind of this perseverance and character within me that I can say, you know what, I don't even know this person that I'm just meeting, and I'm going to choose to love them.
Yeah. And I think you said something so important, right? We're not encouraging like be in a relationship with someone that constantly you're gonna have conflict, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not necessarily what we were saying, but it's good to open your circle, right? Like you said, there's relationships that end in certain seasons, and that's okay. And to move on, to move forward, I think if that doesn't happen to you, I should question, if you actually taking progress, in your own life. But I think that happens a lot, right? I remember we had a person in our community a while ago. This person disagreed with, he loved to actually engage in like political conversations and all this stuff, and we never actually, I actually told my team, hey, like, don't engage in those things with him, because he doesn't have yet the wisdom to actually have conversation. Very smart man, very smart, intelligent, know his stuff. But I told my team, they don't engage in it, and through the time, he stayed with our community, knowing that there's a lot of people that disagree with him. And I remember one time having a conversation with him. I keep loving him. I keep trying to hang out with him. I keep inviting him into our community. I keep encouraging other people to have a relationship with him. And I never have a problem with him. And I remember one time he told me, he was like, man, I never ever thought in my life that I will be probably in a circle like this. Never thought that I will be hanging out with people that I completely disagree.
That's crazy.
And to me, that, at least for me, I remember seeing so much value in it, to create a space where we might disagree in many things, and I never really wanted to engage in certain conversations, because I was like, it's not worth it to engage in this. Maybe in the future. Never really happened. But to be able to have people that don't think like me, they don't think like our team, but they're willing to stick through, even serve in our community, help us in our community, and bringing people into our community, I was like, this is worth it. Some way, somehow.
And I think that goes back to one of the things that you brought up was wisdom, pursuing wisdom. And I think in order to actually sustain a relationship like that, because that's what you were doing, it was a long-term thing. It wasn't like, oh, you just ran into this person once, or you had coffee with this person once and realized, oh, we disagree on a lot. No, it was being able to sustain relationships like that. You need wisdom, because you need to know when to engage, when not to engage, when to stand up for when you think this is the right time to say something, how to love that person in your words, in your responses, and to say, hey, like, we view things differently, or someone else who views things differently than you, and also teaching them how to do the same, to show respect amongst each other. And that to me is always a huge key, is we can have these conversations, but it needs to be done respectfully. It needs to be done in a way that we're not, like you said in the beginning, attacking people personally and who they are, their character.
Attack the idea, don't the person. Exactly. Don't attack the person.
Exactly. Have conversations about ideas and things like that, but not taken to the point where it becomes personal and just becomes nasty. That's far from love.
I think that's good, man. I think that's kind of like our thoughts about it. I know there's so much more into it. We couldn't give so many practical steps, but at least this is maybe the beginning of a conversation.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, one of the, just to kind of close it, is kind of what we've talked about, is just that, is just looking inside yourself. I think at the end of the day, when you have relationships with people, the first thing you always want to do is, hey, what can I do? Or what am I doing to add to this? Or maybe I'm adding to it negatively. Maybe I'm doing something like that. So just always looking internally and saying, hey, how can I better myself? How can I love people better? How can I put my own agenda to the side for the sake of a relationship?
Totally.
I think we put too much value sometimes on our ideas and perspectives that we're willing to sacrifice loving someone genuinely through a relationship.
Just build empathy. Build that empathy and that wisdom in you to actually don't isolate yourself from people that think just like you. I mean, from people that don't think like you.
Yeah.
Actually, be part of it, you know. I'm not saying you're gonna do it all the time, but what I'm saying is like that's the way we build our empathy. That's the way we build our, you know, our wisdom, the way we build our even leadership skills and personal skills. Like there's people who can, they're not able to engage with people that don't think like them because they're just burst in anger, and you know, and that's something that at least I'm working on it. But anyways, love people.
Yes,
like you.
Yes, definitely. And then like and subscribe to this podcast.
Yep.
Share this with someone that you have disagreements with often, or share this with someone that you guys tend to agree on many things, and that's okay. We love you guys, and we will tune in next time. And yeah, we'll see y'all later.
Let's go. We out.
And you never know. Till the sunset, we just young and having fun, yeah. Friends come and go, and you never know. Till the sunset, we just young and having fun, yeah. Friends come